What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Tuesday evening at the time of recording this video, and some developing news that I wanted to give you in a short, sharp, sweet news video on this Tuesday evening regarding, yes, the takeover process at Manchester United. I know, we kind of joked about it this morning, didn't we? That I could give birth to a child with how long it's taken for Manchester United to be sold as the Glazers explore their strategic alternatives, but we were promised last week news by Kaveh Solokol, or certainly developments this week when it comes to the next step, the next phase of the takeover process at Manchester United as the Glazers do seek to explore those strategic alternatives. And the latest update hasn't come from Kaveh himself, but the latest update nevertheless is not good, and it means that possibly this entire process after 10 months could possibly be put on pause for the foreseeable future. Now, this story comes from iPapersport or iSport. They're a sports football outlet, and they're suggesting that the Manchester United takeover process has been effectively, quote, paused as far as at least one of the two main bidders are concerned. Now, those two main bidders indeed are Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani of Qatar and also Sir Jim Ratcliffe of Ineos. Now, according to this source close to one of the bidders for Manchester United, they haven't said who it is, and again, they're close to the source, not the actual bidder, because that would break the confidentiality, that would break the NDAs, but the point being is that it might be one of them. And there is frustration from one of these bidders, probably both of them, but according to this source close to the bid, they have said, quote, "We've not been given any guidance at all on what comes next. There haven't been requests to modify the offers or come up with new round of bids as there was earlier in the process. There's just been no communication whatsoever as of late." Now, if I'm going to speculate on this, I would probably suggest this probably comes from the Qatari camp, because it had been reported not too long ago from Jamie Jackson of The Guardian that Sheikh Jassim and the representatives of the 9-2 Foundation hadn't heard anything since they put their last bid in for Manchester United, which was their 6th bid, something like that. After 3 rounds of bids, they then put in several more bids closer to what the Glazers were looking for. But despite the fact that these bids were closer to what the Glazers are looking for, it's still not the value that they wish. Now, it continues by saying there is suspicion from at least one of the people close to the Manchester United sale process that Avram and Joel Glazer have been disappointed with the size of the offers for the club. It then finalises the report by saying, quote, "Joel and Avram Glazer believe that new TV deals being negotiated, the growth of the game in the United States of America, and the new Champions League format will add value to Manchester United in the coming years, hence why this whole process may have been paused." So just to give my kind of 2 cents on this very, very quickly, I gotta be honest, I can't sit here tonight saying that I'm absolutely stunned by this bit of news, if indeed it is true. And it's a big if, because again, it's not super credible outlet when it comes to people that are breaking news when it comes to this entire takeover process. And of course, a lot of the news surrounding this whole thing has been incredibly murky and incredibly vague. And every single time you think it's going in one direction, you hear news that it's going in a completely different direction as well. So it must be taken with a pinch of salt. But I can't sit here and say that I can't believe that this whole report is definitely not true or anything like that, because it does ring like it could be true, couldn't it? Certainly, couldn't it? It has gone really quiet. Every single time you feel like there's a development, you then hear nothing and you hear a wall of silence. And as I mentioned, it wasn't that long ago that Jamie Jackson from The Guardian said, hey, from Sheikh Jassim's point of view, they've heard nothing, absolutely nothing, since they put that last bid in. And they put that last bid in a long time ago. And time continues to roll on. Every single time you think, right, now's the time. It's Easter, or it's, the FA Cup finals over and done with. It's pre-season. The transfer window open. We keep hitting these milestones and nothing happens. We hear nothing, absolutely zero. Yeah, we get these reports, stuff's going on in the background and due diligence and this, that and the other, but it goes really quiet, and it's gone really quiet. And from the Glazers' perspective, it's the reason, if indeed it has been paused, is the same reason why they put it up for sale in the first place. It's all about money. That's what it's always been about. And think of the nerve of these guys. They have received world record bids, and bids that were world record bids pretty much from the start, that have got bigger and bigger over time, and they still aren't content with it. And as I said before, when the news was broken by David Hellier from Bloomberg, and actually spoke to Flex about it, it was an exclusive here on the channel, when he said that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid was effectively dead because the minority shareholders in United had gone to the board. They'd written to the board, and there was a threat of legal action saying, if you accept this bid because we believe you've prejudiced the minority shareholders, we will sue, and we're threatening you with a lawsuit. We believe there's grounds to sue. It will tie the club up in litigation. It will block this sale going through. So effectively, it's not going to happen. And the independent members of the board, the independent board of directors said, well, with that in mind, we will never recommend the bid from Ineos. Therefore, there was one main bid on the table from Sheikh Jassim of the 9-2 Foundation. However, the problem with that is that still, after several bids, again, 5 or 6 bids, it still wasn't what the Glazers are looking for. And I'm sure, again, they're looking at all of the money that could potentially be rolling into Manchester United in the future, as they mentioned, when it comes to, hey, the Champions League's being expanded, more clubs are being involved in that, it's being revamped because of the threat of the Super League. On top of that, maybe the biggest money spinner is the fact that new television deals for the Premier League are being negotiated right now, and every single time there is a new television deal negotiation, money goes up, particularly now where television, it's the driving content revenue source for a lot of things. And also, they're probably thinking even further into the future, saying after this TV deal is concluded, there is speculation they could go into the world of streaming the Premier League and bypass a lot of these broadcasters that they currently bid on their product, and they could take all the money for themselves. So the clubs could get even richer in the future. Plus, the Club World Championships being expanded as well. They've just signed this new 10-year extension with Adidas, which is rumoured to be £900 million over 10 years. That's the largest ever in the history of the Premier League. So the Glazers are looking at this going, we're the biggest in the world. So why shouldn't we command a really high fee if we're going to sell Manchester United? Why shouldn't we do that? But from Sheikh Jassim's point of view, if you're just going to consider Sheikh Jassim, from his point of view, he would say, well, I'm offering a world record fee. No sporting franchise has been sold for more than what I'm willing to pay. And bear in mind, what I'm willing to pay, I've started off at this point and I've got up to this point, and it's nearly double. I think it is even over double what the market cap is of Manchester United, and I don't want to be taken for a mug. So now really you've got one person left in this. I know that Sir Jim Ratcliffe hasn't been told he's out of the race, but if you believe what David Hellier and Bloomberg have said, they said that he's stuck there, and his bid really hasn't changed from the last bid that he put in terms of the amount he's willing to put in terms of finance is as high as really he can afford to go. And then it just gets into case of percentages of how much stake he's willing to take in the club. So the only real bid left on the table is Sheikh Jassim for the 9-2 Foundation. He's only willing to go so high, which is still a world record amount, but the Glazers are thinking that's nowhere near to what we're looking for. It had been rumoured from the get-go that they were looking for £6 billion. With all of the money potentially rolling into football in the future, they might be thinking, hey, maybe we should be getting even more. So what have you got? You've got conflict. And the Glazers seemingly are holding firm because they're like, nope, we're not going to, until we get £6 billion or possibly more, we're not even considering it. And then you've got someone like Sheikh Jassim who's saying, well, I'm not going to pay £6 billion because from my perspective, that's a rip-off. That's so overinflated. I could pay it, but just because I could doesn't mean I'm going to do it. And as a fan, one, it's entirely frustrating because we know that you can't sit here and say you're shocked and surprised. And the writing has been on the wall for the last couple of weeks, as I mentioned, or the last month or so. The fact of how quiet it's gone. And on top of that, my concern is, why did the Glazers start to consider to sell in the first place? Why did they seek to explore strategic alternatives? They sought to explore these strategic alternatives because money was running out. Money was running out. The stadium needs renovation or needs knocking down and building again in that spot or somewhere else, whatever it may be. The training ground needs renovation or again, knocking down and building again. The squad needed money being put into it. The debt was ever rising, and frankly, the Glazers couldn't afford to and didn't want to pay off the interest on that debt anymore. They couldn't take dividends out anymore because, again, the club financially was so screwed. So my sort of thought process would be, well, as much as they can say, oh, we're not happy with the amount that's being put in for some of these bids, how longer can they afford to stay? And let's not even put into the fact of the fan backlash. As I've said before, you can't dangle this carrot in front of the fans for nearly a year, because that's what's really coming up to. It's August now, September, October, November. That's when it was. We're like 3 and a bit months away from when they first made the announcement that they were exploring strategic alternatives. It was around this time last year that Jim Ratcliffe first came out and suggested that he would be willing to acquire a majority stake in Manchester United to begin a full takeover. Again, it was just a year ago. These sort of rumblings started to happen. And it's a year later, and where are we? We've had bids. We've had tours around Old Trafford. We've had tours around Carrington. We've had numerous articles being written and numerous videos being made. But how closer are we? We're not any closer, because the Glazers are still in charge. They're going to be in charge when the season started. And again, my thought process is, surely you can't dangle that carrot and then just pull it away and expect people are going to be okay with it. So whilst I'm not surprised, it's the gall of them. But they don't care. They don't give a shit. They do not care about fan reaction. They don't care about if this upsets the fans, or if this is negatively affecting the club as well. Because they don't care about that. All they've ever cared about, and the reason this whole process started and possibly now is paused, is because of one thing. One word: money. Because that's all it's about. It's all about money. How much can we make? And you've then got, on top of that, you've got 6 siblings involved in this, 4 of which have said from the beginning, we want out. Sell the club. We believe we can get good money for it. Sell the club. We can all become billionaires, possibly, on the back of this. Sell. And then you've got 2 in Avram and Joel Glazer, who are sitting there going, we could sell. We could get a world record fee. A world record fee is on the table. We've negotiated with someone a world record fee on the table. 2 world record fees on the table. But we think we could get more. We're looking into the future. We're looking at all the money coming in and all the things that are changing right now in the world of football and the sporting landscape. And we think we can get more. And then from the bidder's perspective, they think, well, we're paying because we think in the future there could be more. And you've now got this stopgap where nothing's happening. And this is a football club. Yes, it's a business, but it's a football club. And still, you've got a club that's trying to achieve things, trying to do things, but they're always going to be stifled by what's going on in the background. You've got a manager and you've got, again, an organization that's looking above for guidance, and they have no idea what's happening. They've waited and been, again, frozen for a year, essentially, based on all of this nonsense that's going on right now. And again, we're none the wiser. We're no closer. And the fact that this is paused could imply that, again, how long is this going to be paused for? Until they realise that the money's not coming in, or until the fans really make it an untenable situation, or until Manchester United suddenly, a bit like, remember they did this going into last season because they thought maybe United are shit now, maybe we'll just leave. Do we have to get that bad again? Is that what has to happen? Or are we going to be victims of the fact that we've got a good manager and we've got some good players? Is that going to be the problem too? So it's an incredibly frustrating situation. As I mentioned, this whole takeover process is incredibly frustrating. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Do you believe this report, or is this just the beginning of more frustration when it comes to this entire process? Did you believe we were ever going to be sold? Are we ever going to be sold? Do you ever see a resolution to this that sees the Glazers leaving Manchester United? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. As always, guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As I mentioned, let me know your thoughts about it. Really curious to know. And we're back with another video very soon. Peace.